a warning?
Ain't nothing to worry about.
I'm worried that you work in an office, have children, celebrate wedding anniversaries. The world of heterosexual is a sick and boring life.
Damn it, I can handle fans. They want a picture. They want a conversation. I can handle fans. You see this, Stewie? I haven't had one of these in a year and a half. Someone's going to pay for this.
Jennifer, settle down. What happened?
I'm with him.
You. Like I'm ever going to win an award playing you.
There's been a second murder.
Who?
Sarah, darling.
Where?
At the studio.
Where? Nancy Drew wants to know where. Cotton Weary, Sarah, darling. Don't you get it?
Someone's killing them in the order they die in the movie.
Dewey, who gets killed third?
Who gets killed third? You do.
Welcome back to the show, listeners.
Welcome back.
I know that a lot of our listeners have been.
People are very excited about this movie. I previewed this a couple weeks ago of just what we're doing in the season, and we got a lot of comments about this one in particular.
I mean, the wiggatry alone is worth...
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Listeners, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott, and these are the movies that made us gay. Very special guest on the podcast, friend of the pod, Wesley Thomas. Welcome on the show.
Wesley, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
We've been meaning to have you on for a while, but I think that the stars kind of aligned on this one because our movie that we are discussing today just turned 25 years old. Yeah, this movie just turned 25, which kind of, I don't know how I feel about that because I was there opening weekend when this movie came out. So this movie does not feel like in my brain like it's 25 goddamn years old, but here we are. We got to Scream 3, directed by Wes Craven, written by Ewan Kruger, based on characters by, of course, treasure of the podcast, Kevin Williamson. Welcome to the show. We're discussing Scream 3. We have been working our way through these through the first season of the podcast. I don't know if we did Scream the first year. Scream was definitely a pandemic episode. I remember that.
Sure.
So sometimes the pandemic episodes, I think, are fun to go back and revisit the content and just kind of maybe do a follow-up movie. We've done some of them just completely over again, but we're working our way through the Scream movies. And Scream 3, a movie that I kind of have a soft spot for just because I grew up on all of these movies. But, mama, this movie has a lot of problems, which we will get into. But just to kind of start out the show, Wesley, do you want to talk a little bit about your background with Scream, just as a franchise in general?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been obsessed with the Scream franchise and the Halloween franchise, my two favorite horror slasher franchises, but Scream specifically, I don't know, there's always that kinship, I think personally, with gay men and final girls.
Yeah, absolutely.
While I love Scream and while I love the Halloween movies, final girls overall I'm kind of obsessed with. Yeah. But I think Neve Campbell's fantastic, and I adore Courtney Cox and David Arquette. I think they're all amazing. I remember I was a kid when the first one came out, and I watched it with my brothers, and we thought it was going to be funny, kind of like the Scary Movie spoof.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I remember we were all together, and we put it on, and we actually jumped, because again, we were all kids. And then Scream 2 came along, and I think the opening of that, the movie theater scene, was quite iconic. Mm-hmm. But then now we've got 6, but 3 came along, and I listened to an interview with Kevin Williamson about Scream 3. He was very polite, very dignified about his thoughts on Scream 3, because the vibe isn't the same as the others.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see that, whether you're a fan of the Scream movies or you just watch them all through one day. But I still have a soft spot for it because I think it's campy. I think it's really funny. You've got plenty of ridiculous scenes and dialogue, which we'll get into. Yeah. But yeah, that's really my relationship with Scream. I've just been addicted to it pretty much since the first one came out. And every time when the fourth one came out, that was many years after the third one. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we got 5 and 6. My husband is sick to death of me going on about the Scream franchise. And then we've got another one out next year. They're already talking about Scream 8. So for the next couple of years, I think we've got solid Scream content.
Awesome. I mean, yeah, I love that. And there's something to be said, obviously, about gay men in particular, queer people, and the final girl phenomenon. Of course, we talk about that all the time when we cover slashers. But it's so interesting that gay men of different generations have their kind of franchise, right? You can kind of tell, anybody like in their late 30s to early 40s are kind of more in a maybe a Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street kind of a range. I think Halloween is a little bit more universal. And
sometimes one leads to the other because when I was a kid and Scream came out, I had not seen John Carpenter's Halloween. Yeah. And it's referenced a lot, and it gets you to track down a lot of those older movies. That's what's kind of fun about these movies in general.
I think Scream does that really well because especially with the young kids of today, the children, they don't like watching old movies, right? They're like, oh, that's an old person movie. It's from the 70s. Get out of here. But I think that Scream as a franchise really, because it is so obsessed with movies and horror movies and the art of creating these horror movies, and the Randy character in particular just kind of gives you that window of like, oh, okay, maybe I will watch The Fog. And I agree that The Fog is maybe a little less successful.
Maybe. Oh, I think that you're talking about Prom Night.
Yeah, sure.
Because Randy has his little soapbox moment when he's mainly talking about Prom Night.
Right. Okay. But I do want to go back for me being of a certain age. I understand that for gays of a certain age that Scream and this franchise, these are the sacred texts.
The children of the 90s.
These are the sacred texts, and they can do no wrong. I'm here to tell you there's a string of Nightmare on Elm Street movies that are garbage, mama, but I will stand behind them, right? Scott, the whole Dream Child arc.
I've grown to
Wilcox.
appreciate it. Yeah. I don't really like the Dream Child in general as a movie.
Right.
But I love Alice, though.
But we love the Dream Warriors.
We love the Dream Warriors, and I love the Dream Master.
Yes, the Dream. So I feel like I'm willing to say, okay, some of those are not great, and I hold them to a certain standard, but also I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, they exist, whatever. I think there's a lot of Scream people out there who are very much like, get out of town. It's 1 through 3 or nothing. What was the first of the requels with Jenna Ortega?
I think it's just Scream
5,
Scream 2022.
I think that really divided the fan base, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. See, I still say, I know technically it is Scream 2022, but I still say Scream 5.
Yeah.
I'm not.
It's Scream 5.
I respect the franchise, but I'm not playing that game.
Yeah.
And then they went to Roman numerals for the follow-up, which is really confusing me.
The 6, the 1V, yeah. The two of us we're not on board with the rebranding, but naming it the same thing. Just Ghostbusters, Scream. It's like, come on, give us a subtitle. Yeah, so I think it's fascinating that there's this kind of like, it's the same with Halloween though. I think with Halloween 2018, people are very much like, oh, get out of town with that. But there's that rose-colored glasses of like, well, these core early movies are grade A cinema. And it's like, mama, let's sit down and watch some of them.
Did you forget about the Jay and Silent Bob cameo in this movie?
Oh, baby. I agree. No. Okay, I will agree. When I was watching it last night, I kind of went in thinking, "Oh my god, they're really trying with these jokes." But I was happy at the end of it. I was like, "This was fun." Parker Posey
doing the Lord's work here.
man, she
Queen.
Get out of here.
Yep.
We have not watched the new episodes of White Lotus yet, and I'm already hearing, give her the Emmy. Just give her the Emmy already. She pre-won. Yep. But, I mean, she's really...
Yeah, and especially where, I mean, there's probably not a lot of character on the page. It's just kind of a lot of quippy one-liners, but Parker's knocking all of this out of the park. She was always my favorite part when I would revisit this movie.
Yeah, of course. So funny.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think that we can get into it. I think that there are aspects of this movie that are really interesting to revisit when you kind of look at what's changed in the world and Hollywood, particularly story elements of this movie that I think that are maybe a little more poignant now. And it's very biting when you look at who was writing the checks for this movie of what they managed to get away with in the script of everything with Lance Hendrickson pretty much is playing Harvey Weinstein. Which, did that even register to the Weinstein brothers at the time? Probably not.
Well, I mean, do you agree that he's put a Harvey Weinstein kind of a stand-in character? Because to me, when I was watching it and Scott said that, I was like, oh, I kind of thought he was maybe just a Harvey Korman, just a schlock producer.
I definitely think they were making commentary. I remember even when, obviously, I've watched all the Screams several times, but especially the first three. But I think this one, it really does delve into the darker side of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're definitely making a commentary on all the sketchy stuff that was going on behind the scenes. And that's a lot of stuff, obviously, over the following years after Scream 3 came out, we found out. And it forced movements to happen so that women got what, these people that were assaulting women got what they deserved, and women got to stand out in the spotlight and say, hey, this happened. So I think while it is a really funny movie, and as I said, very campy, there's a serious tone to it.
Yeah.
It definitely exposes a lot, and it makes us think about what is probably still is going on to some extent in Hollywood. Hopefully not as bad. I like to keep my fingers crossed that we've progressed. But yeah, I think that's one reason that it is an important movie, as silly as it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A little production information about this movie, and you probably know a lot of this, that Williamson was unable to write this movie because he had directorial commitments that he was in pre-production for Teaching Mrs. Tingle, and I think that he also knocked out a television pilot that didn't end up going anywhere. I can't remember the name of it, but he outlined a lot of the story ideas for 3. Ultimately, Kruger, I think, kind of threw out a lot of them, and then Kevin, I think, repurposed them when he went back to the movies in Scream 4 of Sidney ends up going back to Woodsboro, that he kind of later came back to a lot of that storyline. But when you kind of read about this movie, there, of course, was a lot of pre-production problems, that this was a script that they were pretty much writing as they were filming, scheduling conflicts with the main cast. I know that Neve was filming Party of 5 at the time. I think that they were on their last season, and she just had limited days that she would be on set. That's why she's not in a lot of this movie. That's why it's kind of handed off to both Courtney and David of just kind of carrying a lot of the story.
I think I read that she was contracted for 25 days, but she only shot 21 or 22 days total.
Yeah, and kind of rehauled story elements, that there are characters of this movie that had a bigger part in the original script. We'll just kind of go into minor spoilers. I mean, we are a spoiler-friendly podcast, so we're not here to
this 25-year-old movie.
This 25-year-old movie.
Telling you who did it.
But I know that Emily Mortimer was cast as the second killer, and they pretty much nixed it as they were filming. And when you rewatch some of her scenes of this movie, you can tell that I think that there is a very different character going through Emily Mortimer's head as she's acting a lot of these scenes. So I don't even think that they even shot her last big scenes with Roman at the end of the movie, because she was Roman's actress girlfriend that's doing this all with them, and they ended up scrapping all of that. So just kind of rehauled story elements. This shot from July to September of 99, and then they later refilmed scenes in January of 2000. And I think the killer reveal was kind of the big thing that they had to rework as they were filming. And thought it was interesting when you look at the production of Scream that Wes Craven was contracted to do 2 sequels after a test screening for the first movie in fall of 96 went through the roof. That Miramax essentially drew up contracts for 2 movies. So he was contracted to do it. Kevin Williamson, I guess, ended up getting out of a lot of the contracts. I know that he ended up doing rewrites for other movies that he just kind of fulfilled a lot of that with Miramax. And another thing that had a big effect on this production was Columbine in spring of 99. That I think that it made them focus on a lot more of the humor, and they toned down a lot of the violence. Probably more of a focus on the Hollywood murder mystery aspect of the story was kind of dealing with the landfall from all of the school shootings happening at the time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really thought about it, but I
Yeah.
guess in the grand scheme of things, it is less outwardly gory than the others.
Yeah, I think so. And just to spin off a little bit, I don't know if you guys, I'm obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well. And obviously Sarah Michelle Gellar was in the second one.
Yep.
But speaking of Columbine, I know that an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they had to shift the schedule around back when, this was in England, back when it was going on. It was every Thursday night, 6:45 p.m. It's really sad that I still know that. But that's every week when Buffy was on. And I remember even being a kid, and I think they skipped a week.
Yeah, they skipped a week.
Find out. Yeah, I didn't find out
remember
until
that.
I was older why they did that. I just thought, oh.
And they later circled back to it later in the season, and they aired it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
It's Buffy can, if I remember correctly, Buffy can, in one episode, she gets the powers of reading people's minds.
Yeah,
and she hears that there might be a shooting happening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then there's kind of a later reveal of who it actually is.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so I did read that they were like, okay, well, we're going to make sure that there's no, teenagers being killed in this movie, which brings up questions that I have about this script and the timeline of everything, of the timeline of the Woodsboro murders, the original Woodsboro murders from movie 1 from Scream, the production and release of Stab, and now we're on the production of the second sequel, Stab 3. So, I mean, I'm assuming we're going in the actual timeline. It is now the year 1999 in the universe of the movie.
We can say the year 2000 just with the release date.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm telling you guys now, I'm going to call her Cindy a lot.
Cindy Campbell.
I'm going to call her Cindy Campbell a lot. So sorry in advance.
Come on, Scary Movie.
Come on, Scary Movie. This is Bones, Cindy. This is Bones. So I'm going to tell you, I apologize in advance. Sidney Prescott is 19, 20?
Is she 21 in this movie? I mean, she owns a beautiful house up north in California.
Did she get some kind of settlement for the murder? I don't know what's happening.
I'm jealous. The house is gorgeous. I remember thinking, how does she have the money for that house?
Yeah. But I mean, A, how does she have the money? B, again, how long has it been? Did she get paid out for, did Gale have to give her some settlement for the use of her story to release the book, which was then turned into a movie? Who knows? Right? Do we not care? Maybe.
And it's also that thing that Neve Campbell just has always read, she's mature. So she just kind of looks like she just looks like a
28.
She just always looked like a woman to me that I never really saw her as a 21-year-old.
Even on Party of Five when she was playing a teenager, she still looked like a 28-year-old woman there too. But yeah, so I was just like, what's happening?
She's only been out of high school 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. And I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But, I've got questions, and I'm going to bring the questions up as we go through this movie.
Yeah.
So that's number one.
Like I said...
Cotton Weary is the Oprah of this...
Oh, okay. Oh, I want to get into the opening scene, but like I said before, there are elements of this movie that drive me crazy, not saying that I don't enjoy watching it, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think that there is something
so
still inherently very fun about this movie, even though it is still a hot mess.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. I do think that this is one of the worst opening scenes of all of these movies. I do not like this opening scene. I like the idea of having Lev Shriver be the opening death with somebody else. I just don't think that it works. And like you said, he is this talk show host / actor because he's also talking about all of these major roles that he's up for. Let alone what also drives me fucking nuts about these opening scenes. And I know this does not matter. This is a movie. This is fantasy. The opening geography of this movie.
What exit is that?
Why are they driving one way down Hollywood Boulevard and they cut to another direction? I get that is not important. Just weirdos like us.
We're sitting here going, Mama,
really
he does not need to pass the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum if he's going to this house.
And I think that he's about to get on the 101 exit from at the top of Highland Boulevard.
By the bowl?
I don't know. Yeah, it's by the bowl. Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
but just the type of stupid shit that really
so maybe he's more like a male Ricky Lake.
Okay,
like it's a Ricky Lake style talk show. Like it's not supposed to be like
not quite Springer.
No, it's not as bad as Springer.
It's a little more classy.
Yeah.
Would you say it's more of like a Montel? Do you think that they do like human interest stories?
Possibly. Okay, so you grew up in the UK, correct?
Correct.
So you had Trisha?
Yes, we did have Trisha, yeah.
Okay. So is Trisha more like... Because Oprah, I feel like, is kind of... I don't know. Is she like the highest... on the top, the Mount Rushmore of talk shows, right? But I think she was a little bit more like classy. Like she never really had like, "Are you a man or a woman?"
Even in like the early days of Oprah in the 80s.
Yeah, in the early days, she had some weird human interest stuff. But was Trisha like celebrity focused, or was it more like you cheated on me, or was it more like?
I remember watching. I think it was. There's Good Morning Britain and there's GMTV. Mm-hmm. The only reason or way I would watch these chat shows is if my mum had them on.
Yeah.
And I happened to be in the living room when my mum was controlling the remote.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing Trisha. But yeah, Trisha was, if I remember right, Trisha had celebrities on. She also had regular people on. Yeah. Sometimes serious, sometimes more humorous. It was a nice balance.
Yeah.
And that's really all I can remember. God, that's taking me back.
Yeah, because here it's the whole thing of like the home from school sick starter package, right? It's, Ricky Lake, Jenny Jones, all these schlocky, shitty talk shows and like a bag of like saltine crackers. So that's when we would watch them because they're on during the day. They're on school days at like 11 a.m.
Do you think that 100% Cotton is syndicated? I think that it's probably syndicated.
First run syndication, yeah. I'm going to say, which means that it was probably on like the UPN or the WB, which means shitty talk show.
What a wild character arc that you go from being wrongfully accused of murder, Gale gets the scoop from you, writes a successful book, all the events of Screen happen.
Yeah.
You're innocent.
Yeah.
There's all of the stuff from Scream 2 where he's on like his big publicity tour trying to get Sidney to go on Diane Sawyer.
Yeah.
And then
he gets to talk.
The events of Scream 2, he kind of ends up saving the day at the end of that movie. Cindy does him a solid and does like some of the PR rounds, or she at least does Diane Sawyer, and then he follows it up with a talk show and a movie career. Crazy.
I mean, you look like Liev Schreiber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
get a foot in the door.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because he just has news footage in the first movie. So I don't know if at the time they were thinking the grand scheme of this character.
Was he going to be a through line?
Yeah. But I mean, good for Lev Schreiber.
And good for Cotton Weir.
It's a lot of steady work, but yeah, I do not like these opening scenes.
No, this was, in my opinion, this was my least favorite of the entire franchise in terms of opening. And obviously he's a bit sleazy.
He is.
Find out here that he's really sleazy.
So Scott was saying too, he said, do you think they were trying to go for a little bit more of a bigger star than Kelly Rutherford?
Kelly Rutherford, a lot of listeners would probably know her as the mom from Gossip Girl. But I think that she was also a Melrose Place at the time. That I don't know if the Weinsteins tried to get somebody like Cameron Diaz or Kate Winslet for something like this.
I mean, obviously,
I don't know.
Obviously, Drew is our high water mark of like the stunt cast early kill. Jada, you know,
it's a get.
It's a get. It's a get. And then we have Kelly Rutherford. So I can see where you're going.
I bet that they tried and they probably just got a lot of no's.
Sure. I don't know. I think those are big asks for the ones you were saying.
Yeah. It's like who owes a favor to Miramax?
A lot of
people probably.
Yeah. But this is where we get, which at the time is like crazy tech, but now they're calling your grandma, telling her that you're in jail. These like AI voice clone situation, right? This has become real, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. That's the norm now, and we just really have to be careful. When it first started the AI stuff really started to circulate the mainstream media, I was straight away like sending emails to my grandparents in England. Like, please, if I call you asking for money, do not send me money.
It happened to my grandparents.
Oh, what?
Straight up Thelma style.
They called them and said he was saying that
I was in jail.
Yeah,
and I needed bail. Yep.
Oh no, they didn't give any money though.
Posing as me.
Yeah, but no, your grandparents didn't fall for it. No, they didn't fall for it, but it happened. Yeah, that's smart. That you have to be proactive about it because it's real. It's happening to people.
Oh yeah, I shared that on social just because I'm really paranoid that people I care about are going to fall for that. Even though, honestly, my grandparents are really old school. I think they're one of the few people in England that still have checks. And they go into the bank and don't do online banking. Yeah. So I'm worrying for no reason, really.
Yeah.
But they're getting really clever. I've had my mum's friends almost fall for it because the information is so convincing and the story is so convincing. So this was this movie was ahead of its time in terms of the AI stuff.
Yeah. I saw a video on Instagram of Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins speaking 3 languages. And it was video, and I bought it. I was like, wow, you go, Billy Corgan. I didn't know you spoke Spanish so fluently. Oh, no, completely AI. He was just like, that is not me. It's like, oh, never mind. Yeah.
I have a theory that Wendy Williams calling that morning show is AI. That just happened a few months ago.
Yeah, well, I think there was another phone call, and I think that now there's like an investigation happening. Because I think TMZ called the facility.
Is it still developing?
Yes.
Okay.
There's like photos of Wendy like at the window, like banging on the window.
Oh, wow.
Like, get me out.
Okay.
It's crazy. I'm not laughing about Wendy being locked away, but it's crazy. Poor Wendy Williams.
Oh, I have a Wendy Williams like poll later in the movie.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I think this one in particular, everyone always says the killer.
The killer.
They say the killer a lot in this one in particular. I always think of Wendy.
I always think of Wendy.
And her obsession with the killer on the show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with Wendy Williams, Wesley?
Yes. No, I do. I did see on social. Yeah. Didn't she? They're claiming that she's an alcoholic or dementia. I'm hearing different stories. I really don't know concrete what's actually happening.
The thing is, they have her in a facility saying that that it's dementia, but supposedly the theory is that it was just really like deep alcoholism, and now that she's been in there, she's completely detoxed and is better and has control of her facilities, and so when people do call her, she's just like, nope, I'm in here, I'm fine, but I can't get out. So
Wow.
yeah, so that's where we are right now. But on her show, she often talked about things like locking the door to the house and locking your windows and having a bat by the bed because of the killer. And she always talks about the killer. And so, and anytime, I always tell Scott, like, put your shoes away. You're going to trip over your shoes when the killer comes in. And so we always have a joke about the killer around that. And last night when we were watching this, Sidney said the killer.
Sydney, and, like Gale and Dewey, they all say the killer. It's like 50 times in this movie.
We'll do a killer supercut.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the intro, I feel like you gotta up the stakes. All right, Cotton, get rid of him.
Yeah, somebody major has to die.
Yeah.
Did you see the alternate version they did?
Oh, they did an alternate version of the opening? What's that?
Yeah, it's been so long since I saw it. I really wish I could have found it online for this episode. I remember it being much worse than what was used for the movie. So they actually did choose the right take. They chose well, because I remember watching it years ago. It got leaked, whatever it was.
Oh, sure. There's a business with a skylight.
Something with a skylight.
Okay, I think that does ring a bell.
Yeah. But
Does he come crashing in through the ceiling?
I think so, yeah. But it sounds like it would be cooler and more effective. But from my memory, I remember watching it and cringing the entire time.
Oh.
Because I watched the alternate ending, and it's essentially just reblocked. Like, it's pretty much the same ending as the movie, but there's some business that they just kind of end up cutting around a little bit.
The ending or the beginning?
The ending. Yeah.
Oh, the ending.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the same thing. It's not even anything major that they cut out.
I do love that, though. I love nowadays it's more common that we'll get the alternate scenes that they cut out for whatever reason. But back in the day, it was a real treasure.
Oh, yeah.
To come across that. We never saw the alternate version. Sometimes they did make the right decision. Other times they really didn't, because the alternate was much better.
Yeah.
Okay,
totally.
Pete's combing through the opening
I'm scrubbing
scene.
through it. Kelly Rutherford's got the golf club. Okay, la-di-da. Kills her.
She also says, I can't with your stab game. So this is something that Cotton has done previous?
Again,
a little bit?
sleazy.
Yeah.
Questionable character there.
Okay, what is he's trying to get out through the skylight? What are you thinking about, Cotton Weary? He's trapped under the thing. Oh my God. He's like doing some. This is some upper body strength. Stabbed him in the leg. Ouch.
Right through the leg.
Okay, listeners, it's on. Just Google alternate opening Scream 3. It's all here. It's wild. It's just one more stab and then boom. Now we're back into the regular.
I'm also
shot.
What's going through these opening scenes is why doesn't Cotton own his own house? You would think that maybe with your first big few checks from 100% Cotton that you could invest in a nice house in the valley. I don't know why he is living in this townhouse in
Well, maybe he
Los
dumped it
Angeles.
all into the car because it's got the built-in car phone that's got the wire, and then he also had
That would have been nice in the year
he also
2002.
had a cell phone separately because remember he's on both phones at one point.
Do you know what I miss for cell phone usage? I miss that when your phone made noise when you dialed on it.
Oh, like when you hit the buttons?
Yeah. I remember my first cell phone did that.
I remember having a Nokia, and that was when the Charlie's Angels movie came out.
Oh my God.
I
That would have been a nice phone.
I thought I was a Charlie's Angel for a very long time with that Nokia phone.
Mama, I loved that phone. That I saw that in that movie, and they all had them, and they were like red, and they each had a color. I was like, I need that phone. I coveted it, and then I finally got it, and mine was silver, and I loved it. Oh, so cute.
Yeah, same. I loved mine so much.
You couldn't tell me nothing. I was like, ooh, Charlie, it's me. Loved it. Yeah, early days of the cell phones.
All of these scenes of Sydney in her reclusive life, in her beautiful... I think that she says Monterey, I think that these scenes are set in Monterey, because when she dials into the crisis line, she says, I forget, like, her her undercover name. Is
Okay,
it like Kelly.
Yeah,
Kelly from Monterey or something.
Okay, because we were
Laura from Monterey.
Well, because we were saying it's like, all right, she's been through it. She's been through the ringer, 2 movies, all these massacres, and she's like, all right, I'm gonna up and leave town.
I think I'm at least leaving the West Coast.
Yeah,
I think I'm just like trying to get my Canadian citizenship and moving to Toronto or something.
Yep, move much, much further away.
just go buy her villa and live her under the Tuscan sun fantasy. Yeah, it seemed to me, I was like, man, she's just out in like Tahunga or something. That's not far enough. But okay, Monterey. Although, where is where do they live? Sunnydale? What's it?
Woodsboro?
Where's Woodsboro?
So I've always thought Woodsboro was in wine country around San Luis Obispo.
I buy that.
That's where it is in my brain.
Central California.
Central California.
So then she didn't move very far.
So she
because Monterey's only like
really
2 hours away.
I mean, her dad can make it over to her house.
Yeah. All right, Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Get your shit together.
All right, so let's talk about Stab 3. I love a movie that is set on a film lot where there is a giant billboard for a movie that is currently in production. I don't know why I am obsessed with that. Something that you never see in Hollywood.
No.
Also, I love that a majority of this movie is shot in Los Angeles because now all of these movies now are shot in like the middle of nowhere in Georgia. Like nothing is shot in LA now.
No shade to our Georgia listeners, but it's nowhere.
But yeah, I do like all of the LA locations of this movie.
Yeah.
But Stab 3 in production, that they have to halt production because of the opening events of this movie.
Can I ask a question? Why is, from the looks of the production of Stab 3, it seems like they are remaking Stab 1. Because we've got Sheriff Dewey in
it is called Return to Woodsboro, Pete.
Police uniform. They're back at the scene of...
Yeah, why are they back at Stu's house?
They're back at Stu's
Like, is it Scream 5? Did they do Scream 5?
Yeah, it's
not to be confusing, but it seems like it's Scream 5 where Sidney goes back.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, what movie are they making? They already made Stab 1. So it's like Stab 3. It's like, it seems like they're redoing it. Also, I mean, okay, it's Stab 3. And so it seems like at this point they've passed like what's actually happened. So maybe they're just making up new events, because who is Jenny McCarthy playing?
Sarah Darling.
We don't know. What's his name is the not the Stu stand-in, the
I am not a Randy substitute.
A Randy substitute. Yeah.
Oh, he's hilarious.
No, he's great. That actor's really funny. I remember him from The Cosby Show. I mean, I know we can't watch Cosby Show anymore, but he was in The Cosby Show in the 80s. His name was Bud. Well, actually, that wasn't his name, but...
Well, there's a lot of cast drama because of the events of the movie.
Right.
And just kind of what's happened. Both Tori and David declined to come back, so they had to recast them.
Okay, here we go.
Which I kind of love the Stab lore of Scream. I'm kind of obsessed with it.
But who was David Schwimmer supposedly playing?
Dewey. Yeah, he's Dewey.
He's Dewey. Got it.
And I take it that Jennifer Jolie, played by Parker Posey, she originated Gale.
Yes.
It was kind of a big star-making role for her.
She said she's
And I think that there's a line in the movie of must-see TV, so I think that she was a television actress that transitioned into movies, and Stab was her first big part.
I mean, was that a read? Because Courtney, being on Friends, she said must-see TV. Yeah. She said must-see TV, and Parker Posey was like, oh.
Did you also get... Yeah, I love that reaction. There's also a dig at Brad Pitt, who was dating...
Jen.
Courtney's best friend at the time, and married.
Yeah. And had done an episode of Friends. So I was like, this is kind of a little too close for Miss Courtney.
Okay, do you remember when the Scream 2022 came out? Or is it... Yeah. Is it that one?
Scream 5.
Do you remember who on the cast list played Tatum in Stab? Because Jenna is scrolling through the IMDb page for Stab. Do you remember who is listed
who they
as
listed
Tatum?
It? I know... In the original movie, like, she's looking for who played her.
Yeah.
I know in Scream it was Rose McGowan.
Right.
Yeah, but who's the Rose McGowan in the Stab universe? Because I remember this at the time that someone
Who is it?
someone screenshotted it.
I don't remember either.
It's Alicia Silverstone.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm obsessed with the Stab universe. I almost want them to make a Halloween 2018 Stab movie, a reboot, but with Tori.
Yeah, they should.
Where she's living out in like a cabin, like a gun obsessed Sidney
So
Prescott.
in the next Scream movie, they're rebooting Stab.
Yeah.
And it's called Stab again. They can't call it Stab 5 or whatever.
But yeah, I want to see a requel from the Stab movies.
Okay.
But just done as a traditional movie.
Okay. They can, I mean, come on. Yeah, they'll bring them all back. I like it.
They can do it.
The actor who plays Dewey in Stab 3, Matt Kiesler, we love this actor.
Yeah, love him.
He has since retired from the acting world. Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he has since retired from the acting. He did a handful of stuff in the late 90s, early 2000s.
We just watched Splendor with him.
We did a
Greg
Greg
Araki
Araki movie that he's in with Jonathan Sheck and Kathleen Robertson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that actor. I think he's so handsome. He's very tall. I think it's at first I was kind of like, okay, what an interesting choice for Dewey. But I think, don't they comment on it like he's too handsome?
Yeah, they do. I think doesn't Gale Weathers laugh?
Yeah, Gale's like he's playing you.
Playing?
Yeah,
yeah, and Dewey's like he's playing me, and then Gale Weathers, Courtney Cox makes a big joke about it. But I completely agree about the handsome comment because there's a lot of between Cotton and the Stab Dewey and Patrick Dempsey. You've got a lot of good-looking men in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Patrick Dempsey in this movie, this is like, he's like at the height of his powers.
I mean,
he's so handsome in this movie.
Yes.
Like the hair, I mean, his hair is always great. It's always been great. Back to Can't Buy Me Love. Our robots.
Our robots going off. Hold on.
I think it's done.
But also at a time of Patrick Dempsey's career that viewers would have been watching this movie being like, holy shit, it's Patrick Dempsey from Can't Buy Me Love.
Yeah.
What's he been up to? And he looks incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. This is pre-Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy would have been spring of 2005.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because now you look at him and you think Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
So back then, changed his identity.
Yeah, it was a real big gag to see him after so long, and he looked so good. Yeah, there's some lookers in this one, and I'm here for it. But yeah, all the stuff on this set is fun. I also like Patrick Dempsey. What's his character's name? Mark Kincaid. I like Mark's his partner, his sidekick. He doesn't have a lot to do,
He
but
was
every
Stab.
now and then,
They were making a movie called Stab.
yeah.
I feel like I've seen that actor a lot too.
Yeah. He's a character actor, but I like that. I like that little character. That's some fun stuff there. But it's interesting because I don't remember at what point I actually figured out like, oh yeah, Sidney's gone for a lot of this movie. Like you get her you get her set up, and then she comes to town. But even when she gets to L.A.,
She's hardly used.
she still doesn't do a lot.
She's relegated to just sitting in the police station for most of it.
Yeah,
I would have liked to see much more of Neve Campbell.
Do you think that maybe they plugged in Parker Posey? Like maybe she would have been doing a little bit more detective work with Gale? I'm wondering what else it could have done, because I really do like the stuff with Jennifer Jolie and Gale when they're together.
Yeah.
And all that stuff with Carrie Fisher. Those scenes are great. I just want more Parker Posey and everything. So.
I mean, she kills it in this.
Yeah,
she's the main comedic element for me, just running through it.
Yeah.
But I wonder if we'll get with Scream 7, I wonder if we'll get the Gale and Sidney team up, because they're the two legacies coming back. So I wonder if that was the intention for Scream 3, and then there was the scheduling conflicts with Neve. So obviously they couldn't go in that direction. So I wonder if, they brought in Parker Posey and had her as, let's team her up with Gale, and those two are going to be really funny.
Yeah, and it just worked so well. They might not have been as comedic if it was Neve, but I think that Sidney and Gale as a pair is really strong, especially seeing where they came from. So it's this arc of enemies, and even the interactions they have in the latest ones. They're so satisfying.
Yeah.
When they're together, I think Courtney plays it really well, just kind of understanding this. They both play it really well, but
so when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was taken to Runyon Canyon, which is like the big Hollywood Hills hiking trail. And I remember when we were on Runyon, I look over and I see Jennifer Jolie's house from Scream 3. It is right next to a big hiking trail in Los Angeles. And I was like, holy shit. That's Parker Posey's house from Scream 3. And who I was with was like, yeah, that's it. And it still looked exactly the same. And Dewey's trailer still, I think to this day, is still outside of the house. So that was a big movie location sighting when I first moved here.
Yeah, that's a cool moment.
This house is off of Runyon Canyon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved that so much. I would have nerded out. I would have just stood there for 2 hours.
But yeah, it's totally random that it's next to this really busy hiking trail in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've not hiked Runyon before because I get annoyed with those areas because they're super traffic people. But that seems really cool, and it's interesting because as I remember thinking oh my God, this house is so crazy. It's on this hill, and he's like, oh no, that's real. I was like, oh shit. I forgot.
I mean, good for Parker Posey's character. Good for Jolie.
Yeah, Jennifer Jolie must be
good for Jennifer Jolie
making some good scratch on these movies because that's a very.
She must have got a pretty good check for Stab 2.
Yeah.
Used as the down payment.
Yeah.
And then the must-see TV that was before that.
Yeah.
She's been making money off those reruns.
Yeah, she's getting her residual.
Yes.
She's getting her residual checks. So, okay. I thought it was really funny when we meet Heather Matarazzo as Martha Meeks. And
I have a lot of questions about how Martha got to Los Angeles. Does she have a ride back? No one just mentions, Martha, do you at least need a ride to the airport? She
seems to be a minor.
Yeah.
She seems to be
somebody
a
managed to get her a drive on to the Sunrise Studios lot.
Yeah. It is really random how she just pops up and then disappears, and that's it. But she does the same in Scream 5. Is it Scream 5?
This is true.
Yeah,
it's 5. Yeah.
I mean, at least she has a house in Scream 5. Here, she just pops out of a trailer.
I like her scenes in Scream 5. I thought they were cute.
Yeah, I was glad that they brought her back for that.
Our audience in West Hollywood all applauded when she appeared on screen.
Yes, yeah, in the theater. I just thought it was very funny that Dewey said something to the effect of "Oh, it's Martha, it's Randy's sister. Can't you tell?" And I'm like, why? Why would we be able to tell?
And then doesn't she make a comment about Martha and Gale saying, "Tell me that's his ex-girlfriend and I'll kill myself"?
Yeah, she does say that.
So there's some lines in this where I rewatched. I mean, I've watched it many times, but I rewatched it last week, and I'm still shocked at some of the lines in it that they just put out there. So even 2025, and I'm still shocked, still gagged at some of the dialogue. Yeah,
some of the dialogue is a little a little blithely throwing out, a little laissez-faire with some things that we're a little bit more triggered by these days. But I love that little scene, and Randy's tape that he made, interesting. I mean, we got to fit him in somehow. Randy's a fan favorite character. He's a fan favorite character, and I get a little, impatient with when they get to explaining like, well, this is how movies work and this is how trilogies work. I think that this is way more effective in this movie than the college film course in Scream 2.
Oh, you'd love that scene.
About sequels.
Just kidding. You
that
love that
scene, I hate that scene so much. Oh my god, it's so corny. And I mean, that's Kevin Williamson. He wrote that shit. You know, that's supposed to be the superior film. But I'm here to tell you, Randy pre-recording a film about explaining trilogies, and on the off chance that he gets murdered,
which is in the universe of the movies less than an hour later, probably.
Yeah, yeah, because he's in the van.
Yeah, and he's wearing his bowler shirt.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it's more effective, and it's less like, look how smart we are with this dialogue. I don't know. I think that college course film history scene is like cringe.
I remember these scenes with Randy were all in the marketing for this movie. Like pretty much the ad campaign led with all of these scenes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I did like the end of his pre-recording, though, where doesn't he say about Gale and Sidney, I'll see you soon, because we're now in a trilogy and the rules have changed. For some of you, I'll see you soon.
Right. Yeah.
That strikes a real tone, because up until that point, his roommate's trying to barge in, and it's kind of funny, typical Randy, and then he basically says, anybody can die.
Yeah, all bets are off in the
yep.
trilogies. I do like what he says, too, in the trilogies about, like, there's like a bombshell is going to get dropped. Like we thought we knew something, and then they're going to tell you something that's completely like no one knew as of yet. I like that a little bit. I was like, okay.
He mentioned the bombshell of Return of the Jedi. Don't they do that in Empire though?
Well, I think he's talking. They do it in Empire, but in Jedi, I think he's talking about Leia being Luke's sister.
Oh, sure. Okay.
That's the one thing we didn't know.
I don't know what the Godfather 3 reference is because I've never seen the Godfather 3.
Same.
It's on my list, though. Yeah. I need to watch it.
Yeah, I think
it was good foreshadowing, I will say that.
But I do have to say I did take a little umbrage with what I feel like is a bit of retconning with the final, like, the killer giving his little speech at the end of, like,
yeah.
Well, what you didn't know was, you thought it was Stu, and but what you didn't know was I was pulling the strings the whole time. It's like, okay, isn't that convenient for the plot?
And there's
of this
reasons
movie?
why a lot of these movies do not talk about that a lot.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, this character is kind of like, does he
exist? Well, let's get a little bit into the Scott Foley character then. So this character's name is Roman.
Roman, yes.
Mm-hmm. Roman Bridger, and he is directing Stab 3. There's a cameo of somebody in this movie that I was like, who is this? This is someone. And it's the scene where all of these Sunrise Studio executives are talking to Roman on the porch, because everybody knows that conversations like this are done on set with people around, not like in an office boardroom. But that's neither here nor there. And there was somebody in that scene that I was like, I know this person. Who is this? It's Roger Corman.
Ooh.
B-movie icon Roger Corman has a little cameo in this movie. Mm-hmm.
Which is
I've never spotted that.
Yeah, but which is kind of why I was thinking that the Lance Henriksen character, John Milton, was kind of a stand-in for Roger Corman. But when Emily Mortimer says at the end, like, that she didn't screw that dude to, like, get killed, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
I know, that was shocking.
That was,
when she blurts that out.
Yeah, you're like, ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah. Up until that point, I'm just like, what are you doing, Emily Mortimer? This performance is weird. She was just giving off a weird vibe the whole time. And it makes a lot of sense when Scott says that she was originally written to be like a co-killer. But as this like hiding in the bathroom, and it's kind of like, it mirrors the bathroom scene from Scream 1, and and she's got the mask in her purse and all this, and she's just real squirrely about like, oh, I was just like taking a souvenir, like what? All that's, and I mean, I get that's the character as written. But to me, it just seemed like this is weird. It seemed so like unresolved. It's like, why is she such a weirdo? That should, in a movie that is telegraphing to me, keep your eye on this one. And then just nothing happens. Mm-hmm.
It was really obvious, though.
Yeah.
I remember every time I watch it, I just think, wow, they're really, really pushing the red herring with her, especially when there's the explosion scene and they end up at the bottom of that hill.
And she's gone.
And she's distanced from Dewey and Gale, and she just looks suspicious. And then, like you said, she's just taking a souvenir, and she's very odd. So, they're pushing it so hard to the point where I would have been shocked if it was her, because it was super obvious that they were trying to lead in that direction.
Yeah. Like, I guess they always kind of do have a red herring in all the movies too, to kind of
like it was kind of. I think the original idea was that it would be the obvious red herring that ends up being the killer.
Right.
Like they're kind of tricking you, thinking that it's so obvious it can't be her.
Well, but I mean, didn't they? Wasn't Skeet kind of used as a red herring-ish in the first movie, and then you did it?
Yeah.
So,
how do you two feel about Jenny McCarthy Wahlberg as Sarah Darling? I actually think Jenny's scenes in this movie are pretty funny. I like the bit of her dialogue of my name is Candy, and I'm only in 2 scenes, and Jenny's only in 2 scenes in the movie.
Yeah,
I think that's clever. I like her talking to Roman over the phone when she answers it, and they're doing the lines of "Why am I in my late 30s and I'm playing a 21-year-old?"
Yeah.
I think stuff like that is just kind of classic Scream dialogue, and I think Jenny does a pretty good job.
I enjoyed her performance. Yeah, and like you said, she's in such a small amount of the movie, but the couple of scenes she does have. I mean, I think it's really funny when she breaks the music video award.
Yeah.
Just drops it on the floor and the head comes off, and she just tapes it together.
Yeah,
he's not going to notice that. You're not even using super glue. You're just going to tape it together. He's not going to notice that.
Yeah. No, I agree, Scott. I think the lines are very clever, and it's very meta, like talking about her role in the movie and how it kind of comes across. Because I don't know, maybe I'm thinking at the beginning like Jenny McCarthy, what an interesting choice, and then they comment on all of it.
Yeah.
So, that's very like well placed in the Scream universe, like the kind of things that they've set up since the first movie. I like that her wardrobe in the movie is very turn of the century. Her like business casual like pants and like this like super tight low cut top. I'm like, oh my goodness.
She just got off her shift at the mall.
I get she looks like she's coming straight from like
it's very booby. That's all I'll say. Every shot, like, wow, okay, the girls are out.
Yeah, they're on display.
Jenny McCarthy's filmography very limiting. That she wasn't in a lot of major movies.
No. Yeah. And I mean, she is funny. I know she's a very polarizing person. She did kind of like spearhead this whole like
anti-vax
vaccine autism situation.
She doesn't really have anything to comment on it now.
No, she hasn't because they've rolled all that back. And the doctor said he's pretty much a fraud. But she can be funny when she needs to be.
That Jenny McCarthy charm. I definitely grew up watching her on Singled Out.
Yeah, back to her early MTV days. Charming.
Her death was funny too when she's pulling out the prop knives and the prop swords.
That was giving a scary movie.
Yes, that was
like straight up scary movie style. Which Scary Movie was? This even predates Scary Movie because Scary Movie was summer of 2000.
Wow,
this was winter of 2000.
It took him that long to come out with the first Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Wow, that
crazy. Movie's ruined. I know so many friends. And they've seen the Scary Movies, and it's ruined. Luckily, it hasn't for me.
Yeah.
But for some friends, they can't watch the Scream movies now because they think of the spoof scenes in Scary Movie, and they cannot take it seriously.
Oh, absolutely. Or your mind kind of does that thing where you misremember it, and you're like, oh, I'm thinking of Scream, but actually, no.
You always think that Love Hewitt and I Know What You Did Last Summer is going to say, oh my God, we hit a boot. I always think of that when I watch I Know What You Did Last Summer.
That's a really good scene, though.
Yeah, and it looks exactly like I Know What You Did Last Summer. They did that shit really well. We love We love the entire. I mean, maybe not the entire scary movie.
From
franchise.
what I understand, they are signing contracts for the new movie that we will be getting Regina and Anna in it.
And I don't know if we know this or not. Are the Wayans brothers going to be
I think
taking
so.
part in the new one?
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing.
I think they posted about it on Instagram.
They declined in quality once the Wayans brothers left. So as long as they're back, then I'm okay with going to see it.
It's going to be fun to see those guys do elevated horror. I'm kind of looking forward to that. I want to see them doing a Midsummer or Hereditary. All of the A24 movies. I think that they can have a lot of fun with stuff like that.
Yeah. Naked old people.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of naked senior citizens. You know you're in a good A24
Oh,
movie.
yeah. They're going to have the whole X trilogy with Maxine, too.
Oh,
So,
sure. Yeah. They got
There's a lot of good stuff.
A lot of ground to cover.
Oh, they've got so much material. I mean, Hereditary.
Yes.
You've got serious, like you said, elevated horror that they're going to take.
Yeah.
And honestly, that scene for me in Hereditary where the sister, her head just comes,
Oh, my God.
that traumatized me. I've only watched that movie once, and I will not watch it again. If I do, I'm skipping that entire scene. But how guaranteed that's probably going to be one of the scenes that they'll make fun of.
Oh, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm really excited to see what movies they make fun of.
I mean, they got to do the substance.
Yes.
They got to do the substance. They're going to
Yes.
have a big blob on the Walk of Fame. For sure.
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. All right. We got Jenny McCarthy at the door. All the stuff at Parker Posey's house, Jennifer Jolie's house, I think is really
With Patrick Warburton.
Patrick Warburton. Yeah. I don't know. Just anything with Parker's in it.
When she jumps in his arms.
Yeah.
I think that's just Parker just kind of riffing on set.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Probably every single take that they did was different.
Absolutely. But okay, so we're sitting here going, they cut the lights, the fax machine.
Oh, yeah, we have to talk about this
The
stupid
fax
scene.
machine is giving like one sentence at a time of the script. And I'm like, but what if they just ran in, grabbed the paper, and ran out so they could read it outside? No explosion.
This scene, I mean, again, kindness, respect, but this scene irritates the hell out of me because I feel like I can, but I feel like yelling, I can read it. How can you not read it? You need a lighter.
Yeah. This was back in the days when movies that had nighttime scenes, we could see what was happening in them. Because like nowadays you
would probably need that lighter.
You would need that lighter. But like at this point, it's nighttime and we can still see people's faces and we can still read the fax machine. But we're like, they're really banking on these people pulling out a lighter. Because
it was really frantic as well. I feel like the acting just went from 0 to 10.
Yes.
Immediately.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess this is really the point in the movie where we're just like, all right, they're knocking people out. Like they got the bodyguard, they got Matt Kiesler, like they're knocking people out. And then, like Dewey, it looked like he shot Ghostface.
Yeah.
That one, in that one scene.
But Randy has that line that you pretty much have to blow them up or decapitate them.
Yeah.
That like gunshots going to take care of them.
Yeah.
Doesn't the bodyguard say something really messed up to Dewey on the phone when he thinks it's Dewey about Tatum?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure Ghostface isn't going to off you like he offed your sister.
Oh God.
That's why we're fine with him dying.
Yeah, when I heard him say that, I didn't really feel bad when he got stabbed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really disrespectful thing to say.
Oh gosh, I didn't even catch that.
Yep.
This
Only
is
a few years prior.
These are those Hollywood types.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget. Yeah, he's protected Posh Spice. He lists his celebrities that he's been a bodyguard for.
Yeah, his clientele.
But calm down.
Okay. Before we get any further, I need to talk about one Ms. Maureen Prescott.
Sure.
/
famous off-screen character of the Scream movies.
What is her her screen name, like from her 70s headshots.
Rena Reynolds.
Rena Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
I think that those photographs of young Rena Reynolds, I'm sorry, it looked like Matthew Lillard in a wig.
So from what I understand...
she looked like she could play Matthew Lillard.
What I understand, I don't have this actress's name in front of me, but
Lynn
I think
McRae.
that these are her actual
They're her headshots.
for when she was a B actress in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was just a bit of luck that the woman that they cast for her photographs alone in the first movie actually had been an actress and had headshots done in the 70s, so they were able to use her real photographs of her with a little bit of photoshopping to put her in the right place. But I think that was effective for me. I like the fact that, okay, now we're bringing back Sidney's mother and we're tying her into the story, and she had some acting.
Kind of the Hollywood mystery aspect of the story.
So that I liked.
Yeah.
What I did not like, which I feel like may have been kind of thrown in at the end, is Sidney having these like dreams of her like ghostly visage. Like,
It's a little Shakespearean.
clawing at the window.
I think that they were going for like a Hamlet ghost
I don't know.
thing.
I don't know how effective that was.
I will say that, embarrassingly enough, it doesn't scare me anymore.
Yeah.
But the first few times I watched Scream 3, that scene where Sydney's having a dream and the mom is coming up to the window and then she falls down really creepy, like bloody fingers on the window and then pops up as Ghostface, that definitely got me for the longest time. I've seen it so much at this point, nothing phases me. But that did get me the first few times I saw this movie.
It's kind of giving me a little Norma Bates, too, of how she's talking to Sidney.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the moment when Sidney's trapped, which I love the scene of her being chased by Ghostface on the set, and the doors that open to nowhere, and like, the fact that this is a build for this movie.
Yeah.
And so it's like some of these rooms are empty and some of the doorways don't lead anywhere. I thought that was really fun. But the idea of, I guess we did say it was back to Woodsboro. Why is Sidney's mother's murder being portrayed in the third movie?
Matt is ripping up the pages and he says, when he rips out the flashback of Sidney's mother's murder.
Sure.
So they're doing flashbacks,
right? But seeing the bloody sheet over the body, that's giving me a little more like Nightmare on Elm Street vibes.
Yeah,
of like the dead bodies and the corpses like rising up and like seeing that in your dreams. Like,
well, the script, because I know Jenny McCarthy has that line. How are we supposed to remember our lines when you keep changing the script? So I feel like this entire Stab 3 is a hot mess.
Yeah.
It keeps getting rewritten. Nobody knows what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
So I feel like the fact that her mom covered in a blanket, in a sheet, whatever, that's probably just another thing that, maybe we'll keep it, maybe we won't, because we have no idea what we're doing with this movie. And now it's cancelled because there's people being killed.
Yeah, very
Do they
true.
kind of lean into the aspect of maybe Sidney is making all of this up in her mind? That maybe Sidney is just going crazy, too?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of there.
I agree with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and also Roman mentions that he's not even 30 yet, so maybe he needs a little bit more time as a director to get his shit together. But also
another handsome guy too.
Yeah, totally.
Were you a Felicity watcher?
I watched a bit of the first season, and
I didn't really watch Felicity.
I liked the Scotts that were on that show. I like the other one more though.
Scott Speedman.
I thought that he was
Love Scott Speedman.
hunky guy.
Yes.
But I kind of fell off the Felicity train after a while. That was one of those shows where I was like, "What is this dorm room?
Yeah.
What is this? What is this presidential suite that they have this lady living in?" But also, I guess Roman Bridger is like a homicidal maniac, so maybe, he's not going to be the best at like wrangling an entire film production. When
He's got issues.
He's got things going on. Well, he's got a lot on his mind.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of the last act of this movie, which is a lot longer than I remember it being, that they spend a lot of time in this house at the end of the movie. So do you recognize this filming location of Roman's house from another Dimension horror movie?
I do. I'm pretty confident that it's from Halloween H2O.
Halloween H2O. I can't remember the name of this house, but it's a famous house in, I think that it's in Los Feliz.
So it's like a residence.
It's a residence. I don't even think it's a residence. I think that it's like,
just like a big mansion.
It's a big mansion, and it's. I don't think it's even owned by anyone. I think that you can take tours of it.
Okay, interesting.
I think it has been. I swear I Googled that when I found out that it's the same mansion that was used in H2O.
You get that big long hallway with the curtains. That's what I always think of.
Yeah, I think there's been a few movies that have had that set and kind of repurposed it like H2O. You can tell, but it does look different.
Yeah, totally. Before we get any further, I mean, I think one of the reasons that a lot of people want us to kind of cover this, should we hold off until the end? Because we have not at all talked about Gale's hair.
Oh my God. How have we got over an hour into this episode and we haven't talked about Gale's hair?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna table the last act of the movie and move on to Courtney Cox's hair.
I think this is kind of the reason that we're even talking about this here because I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there about what's going on. I've heard various and sundry stories. Wesley, what do you have? You said you've got notes.
Well, my main note was not that I would not mention this, but yeah, in England we say fringe as opposed to bangs. So if you hear me say that, you obviously know what I mean. Yeah. But I mean, it's a disaster.
I would even describe these more as fringe than bangs too.
But I think it's interchangeable.
Yeah.
But then I think she's got some very bold costumes and clothes. Mm-hmm. So whoever was in charge of the hair and makeup and the costume for Gale really pushed the boat out because I made a note that she has the yellow suit.
Yes.
She has red leather pants. And then in the final scene, she's got those flower clips, which were very popular, fair enough, at the time.
Yes.
But I just thought, they're really pushing out with how bold they want to go with her clothing. I can forgive, but she made a comment, though, and I love that they brought that into Scream 5, where Gale Weathers does comment on how bad her hair was in Scream 3, so I love that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't really know what else to say besides, it was a disaster. It pulls focus. You're trying to look at Courtney Cox, and you're going right here, right up to her.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tina Burner pantsuit, the yellow and red. It's just so aggressive.
Yeah. Those two colors just together.
So are they going for a Betty Page style of haircut with the bangs?
Okay. So listen. In the second movie, she had the red streaks, right?
Love the red streaks.
In the first movie, it's just a little bit more Jennifer Jolie, but all one color. Second movie, we get the streaks, but they're like that red, and it's red. It's not like auburn.
And it's that type of bobbed hair that it's kind of
asymmetrical
a little bit.
Slightly.
Like it's going towards the bottom when you look at her face.
So maybe they were thinking, okay, each movie we're going to do like a bold look. We already have established that her wardrobe is very graphic, very, bright colors, things like that. So maybe her wardrobe is bright. So maybe each movie we're going to do like a bold look with her hair since we started with the red streaks. And now what are we going to do? Okay, we'll cut her bangs. It was getting into a little bit more pop culture of having the short Betty Page look, but that's not what this is.
I think that Courtney has done interviews where she's talked about maybe when the wig stylist was cutting this wig that it was too far back on
her head
on the mannequin.
But the rest of it doesn't look like a wig, though. Is it her hair? Is it a wig? I don't know.
I feel really bad if that's her hair.
No, I think it has to be a wig.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because she was doing Friends.
NBC wouldn't have let her cut her hair like that if she was still doing Friends.
That's true.
I just, I can't get into the headspace of the hairstylist.
Yeah.
Whoever was in charge of making her hair look like that, I can't go there. I can't even pretend.
And it was one of those things that they made that mistake pretty early, and they had to just keep matching it, too.
Okay, do we think that's what happened?
I think that it was a mistake that they began filming with her, and they just had to keep it.
Yeah. Okay. To match what they've already got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's cuckoo. There's something in the IMDb trivia about like David Arquette saying that she would look so great with Betty Page hair, but I'm like, that's not her real hair. I don't believe that.
I'm fine with a Betty Page bang, but there just needs to be more hair in the bang.
Yeah,
because it's kind of goat chewed.
It's PC, as they say. It's like cut with like it's like a razor. I don't know.
It needs an explanation. It needs a scene. Maybe Ghostface tried to splash her head, and he cut her fringe.
I think a little too far. Away.
I think that Courtney has done Instagram posts where Ghostface gives her a haircut, and it's this. So it's like Courtney kind of like runs with it now that she loves to make fun of it.
Well, Courtney's social media is cute. Yeah. Courtney's leaned in.
She does little videos.
She's leaned into being like a funny social media person, which I like, And I think they kind of I think that kind of started with the Friends. Like, was it the 20th or the 25th anniversary of Friends? I think that's when she kind of started it, but just kept it up, which I like. But yeah, we need the real story.
Yeah,
which none of us have. I don't think anyone has the real story.
I mean, I want to talk to somebody that does wig styling and ask them what went wrong when they were cutting this hair.
Yeah.
Because mistakes were made.
I'll buy that maybe it was too... I don't know, but even if it was too far back on the wig head, they're still really, really short. So, I don't know. But I agree. It's jarring to the point of, it does pull focus. You are just like staring at her in scenes where you shouldn't be. You should be paying attention to what's going on, or just like looking at them, just going like, what?
No, it's so off-putting. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah. But I also think that in this movie they're kind of commenting with Jennifer Jolie's hair, and she has big chunky highlights, but they're more blonde highlights.
Well, and also Jennifer Jolie and Parker is kind of a drag version of Gale,
a caricature,
too, which I love.
Yeah. But they're commenting on her look from 2, right, with the big chunky.
She has highlights. Courtney has crazy highlights in the first movie. Yeah. Of when you look at her styling, that she has some bold blonde highlights.
They're the more Kelly Clarkson, natural color, but just real chunky. Yeah. Okay. So I think,
and she's wearing a version of her red suit from the kind of all of the farmhouse.
She's not wearing the actual suit.
She's not wearing the actual suit. It's kind of a recreation of it.
Okay.
Drag version of it. Can we speak about as well? You just made me think of that scene where her hair really, really stands out. But Courtney or Gale comes on set and she has the bag with the camera in, which Dewey got her so he knows that a camera is in there. The acting in that scene, and I adore David, but that scene is so awkward because she's like a mile away and he's still talking.
Yeah.
He's still talking.
It's kind of awkward blocking.
Yeah, I just think you're speaking to Gale as if she's right there and she's being escorted out. She's left the building, but really, it was good seeing you. And I laugh every time because I think, who the hell are you speaking to? Gale's left.
She's left the building.
I mean, it scenes like this, of this interaction with Gale and Dewey, that you can really see maybe these actors were given these pages a mere 20 minutes before they shot, and they didn't really have proper time to go over the scene with each other, discuss how they were going to film it and block it, and you get something awkward like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just a pure example
Yeah.
of that. Yeah, to me, that's one of the funniest scenes because it's so uncomfortable and it's so awkward. But yeah, that's a scene that really sticks out in my head. Not a great scene, but whenever I think of this installment, that is a scene that stands out.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I do kind of have to stand the hair.
The hair.
I have to stand the ugly hair. I love it. It's so stupid, and it makes this movie so memorable.
It's
that
a talking point. It does make
I just have to embrace it.
It does make it very memorable because it's right there. And she is so front and center. I feel like Courtney has
lead of the movie,
the most
more or
screen
less.
time. Yeah, I feel like Courtney's really the lead of this movie, which I'm cool with.
Maybe it was intentional. Maybe it was like a publicity stunt. Give her really messed up hair so everybody talks about it, so they have to see the movie.
Yeah, so I was trying to piece together what Friends episodes might have been filmed contemporary with.
I always think about that when I
with this.
Revisit around.
You're really good with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah,
and looking at her and saying, "Oh, that's season 2."
Because that when you're watching her scenes in Scream 2, that she would have had to have made this on break from probably right after season 1. That she was about to do production of season 2, or she was filming season 2 at the moment because that's the SMG Bob from season 2.
Yeah.
She was really busy for a while, was SMG, with Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo 2. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream 2, while filming Buffy. I mean, she must have been exhausted.
Yeah. But you're always really good to clock that. I think also with Sarah Michelle Gellar, it's the progression of how blonde she is.
Season 4, it's the real bleach blonde look in season 4.
Yeah, that's a good like test of like where we are.
And then they kind of gave her more of like an auburn hair in seasons 6 and 7.
But with Courtney, it's always been that like raven black hair. Like she never colored it on Friends. It was just maybe different lengths, different levels of like straightness. But the color was never a giveaway. So, and I feel like if they shot this in 99, that's probably season 3 or 4. Still very early on,
I think it's probably around season 4 or 5.
Okay. We'll figure it out.
Does she have the cut from season, or her hair in season, or excuse me, her hair from Scream 2? It's that asymmetrical bob. Did she ever have that in Friends?
Not really.
So she at least grew it out a little bit when they were making Friends, or they gave her extensions or something?
I think that,
yeah.
Or else it's just a full wig in Scream 2.
I think that's her real hair in Scream 2. I don't know.
At any rate,
another wig mystery.
This has been talking wigs with. We'll move on from the wigs, but I mean, you can't talk about this movie without the Gale Weathers.
It's important.
Iconic fringe. It's important. It really is.
Gale Weathers, one of my favorite characters of this series, and kind of going back to that first movie, of that there's something so much fun about how that character is used, particularly in the first movie, because you never quite know what her agenda is in that movie. And she's the perfect wrench to throw in that plot that you never quite know what she's up to. And what is this character capable of? I love Gale Weathers.
I do. She's always got an agenda, but...
Yeah.
But, just kind of shows, like, Courtney's range, too, because Monica... I don't know how much of a Friends fan you are.
Big fan.
Yeah, we're pretty big fans in this house, too. And Monica, I have to say, Monica's one of my favorite characters, like, on the show. Anytime, like... She's got one of my favorite catchphrases that I know. Like, I love it. It makes me laugh every time, and to go from such like a light, funny, fun character to somebody like Gale, who's so tough, like it just kind of shows, like, I feel like maybe Courtney's a little bit more Gale than she is Monica. I think that she's kind of like a tough broad, and I love that about her.
She got tougher as well, I think, in the franchise.
Yeah.
You can see that growth of what the hell is going on, murders are happening, I wrote a book, and then it progresses to where you look at Scream 6 in New York, not much phases her, and
Yes.
she knows what she's talking about. She's got all this knowledge now, so there's growth there. But do you not think in this one, with, not to pivot, another Friends reference, that with Neve Campbell, I know she isn't in as much of this movie as I would like, but I do like her character in this. It makes me think of Halloween 2022, where Jamie Lee or Laurie Strode's, I think you've got like the fight, flight, or freeze kind of response when you've got trauma. And the first movie, obviously, she didn't see it coming. She finds things out about her mother that she obviously didn't want to. Scream 2, she's surprised it's happening again. But Scream 3, she's took not as intense as Laurie Strode in Halloween 2022. She's not got this booby-trapped house, guns and weapons everywhere. But she's going for the more safe retreat route. So I do think Scream 3 does have a nice place in the overall franchise because it's showing that this is her retreating. Then she comes back, Scream 4, and then she doesn't come back for Scream 5 until, obviously, we know what happens to Dewey, and that's what brings her in. So I feel like when you look at the movies that Neve's in, which all of them except for 6, but I do think in Scream 3, that was really interesting for me, to see her retreat, and then she has the moment where she thinks, well, the killer's found me. And she has that dialogue with her dad, and her dad really doesn't like that she's essentially a ghost. Nobody knows her real name. Right. She's off with the fairies, living her life, but she doesn't have any friends. Her dad doesn't like it. So, I just thought I would bring that up because I thought that added some... You've got a lot of silliness going on, but for me, that added character depth and development. Because I'm thinking of, you probably, after it happens twice, you probably are going to skedaddle and get out with Dodge. Because it's probably going to happen again. You don't know.
Yeah, and this is in a work from home being a normal thing, in this era, like almost unheard of. And so she's living alone by herself, doesn't have a partner, working from home, so doesn't interact with people like in real life. And that kind of stuff does kind of weigh on you after a while. You can get into this place of like, have I left the house today?
But she's a crisis counselor too.
Yeah.
So I still don't know how I feel about that. If it's too on the nose or it feels natural. To this day, I still can't really decide if I do like that. It's just too obvious. I think I'm probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I get that.
We were kind of talking about too, like she didn't go this like Sarah Connor route of just being like completely buff and just like I will crush her windpipe and like with one blow.
Sure.
Like Ghostface. Like get close to me and see what happens.
She definitely has taken some self-defense classes.
Yeah, she's pretty good. But I think being a crisis counselor in general, not even coming from a place of being being victimized formerly, I would imagine that could weigh on a person. Just having to hear these stories day in and day out. They say things like 911 dispatchers kind of go through like emotional distress sometimes because of everything that you hear. And so to have lived through it and then now be counseling people on a daily basis, and this is your job, that's a lot for anyone to handle. So Sidney's character arc is very interesting, but you're right. The scene with the dad, well, maybe some could say felt a little shoehorned in. I even was like, is that the same actor from the dad from the first movie?
It is.
Yeah, we checked. It is.
Yeah.
It's the same one. But it's
I just like that.
Yeah.
It makes it impactful
right.
when she comes back and there's that scene at the police station where, again, an awkward scene where Dewey is leaving her a message and she walks through and he still speaks to his phone and she's right there coming in the police station. So, again, another awkward scene. Yeah. But I think that makes that scene just a bit more impactful because to that point we know she's trying to escape. She's trying to just live her best life and she can't because she keeps getting found. No matter where she is, whoever decides to put that mask on, fine. And obviously in this one, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the only one with one Ghostface. All the others have had 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So obviously that's another reason the third one stands out from the others in the franchise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like that scene. It's, she gives Gale an awkward hug and
Like her scenes with Patrick Dempsey too.
Yes.
And I think it's just funny that it's like a whole fan created lore for Sidney that she ends up marrying Kincaid, and they just announced that Joel McHale is playing her husband in the new movie. So maybe they couldn't get Patrick Dempsey of what they offered him, and so they just had to give Joel McHale's agent a call.
I mean, he's not a bad looking guy, so she's not done bad.
Yeah, no, it's not a downgrade or anything. But was there something in the last one where she mentioned that her husband was named Mark? Or did I make that up?
I don't remember. I
Didn't
think
she say that in Scream 5?
I think she says Mark. I think she says Mark.
Oh, I thought that Neve was doing press for that movie, and somebody mentioned her being married to Patrick Dempsey, and she was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" It's like what? Like, oh yeah, that's right.
I didn't write that.
Patrick Dempsey was in 3. I totally forgot.
Well, she says she's on the phone in Scream 5, and I swear she says something like Mark and the kids.
Yeah.
Or Dewey.
Sure.
About Mark
Yeah.
and the kids.
I think that's where it kind of stems from. Is I think there's a line of saying Mark and the kids in Scream 5. Yeah, and so people are like, "Well, clearly," but then nope, just kidding.
You thought that she was pushing her dog.
When she was pushing
the
a stroller, I really wanted there to be a dog in that stroller, but no, it was a baby, which is fine. I really wanted it to be a dog.
So, how do we feel about the murder mystery traders portion
this house, not the secret passageway?
I just looked it up. This is the Moreno estate.
The Moreno estate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that it's kind of near the Silver Lake Reservoir.
It's right by the reservoir. I love a Gothic mansion. But I feel like did we go too far with Jennifer Jolie just to have her I don't know.
Yeah.
Something unsatisfying.
Yeah, there's something so unsatisfying, you're right, about her exit of this movie.
Kind of thought she was going to make it.
It's so anticlimactic. Or if you're going to do a death scene for this character, maybe just make it a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's abrupt. It's super abrupt. She's been a huge comical element throughout, and then boom, that's it. Really?
I almost thought Tyson was going to live because they got so far, into the story and into this is the final showdown. And then he throws Tyson off the balcony, and I was like, oh, no, he did.
I mean, with the logic of all of these movies and the last one of how many times these kids are stabbed,
oh, Mama,
maybe,
if this was Scream 5,
maybe Jennifer actually did live.
Yeah.
We don't know.
If this was Scream 5, Jennifer Jolie would be up and doing jumping jacks like the next
She'd be back to work the following week.
Yeah.
The villains that they're bringing back that have been Matthew Lillard's back, and he had a head. He had a TV drop on his head.
That's the whole thing. Is that there's a whole fan speculation. I think this might come from scripts that circulated. I don't know if any of it was written, but there's a lot of speculation if Stu is still alive. There's like whole YouTubes about it.
Have you heard the AI rumor that they're all going to come back in AI form?
That's what I take it of when these like Scott Foley and Matthew Lillard that announced that they're signing on for it. I think they're going to do something like that, and I think they're going to do it like how they did Skeet.
Yeah,
in that movie.
Ooh, okay.
There's going to be some sort of a dream flashback with Roman.
I mean, hey, it's like like I was saying last night. As a movie watcher, I get so invested in watching the movie, even if it's Scream 3, that to me I'm like, oh yeah, Randy made this tape when he was alive. But it's like Jamie Kennedy was in Scream 3. He worked on it. He showed up to the set, shot his scene, but they just made it as in the story. This is this old tape, so it kind of goes along with that. Like they brought Randy back for Scream 3, and he died in the last one. So, they brought him back in this videotape form. So I'll be okay if it's a weird flashback, if it's a cuckoo, de-aged thing. But I will storm out of that theater if he survived that TV on his head. I'll throw my shoe at that projector.
How do we feel about the retconned elements of there was actually what you didn't know.
But what you didn't know
was you're only getting half the story.
Yeah.
And there was also a third killer in Woodsboro. How do we feel about that?
I don't know.
I've always never really been into it.
So I'm probably in the minority. I know it's very soap opera.
Sure.
Very melodramatic, very over the top, but I do kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. I know it's really cheesy.
Which you're exactly right, is a lot of the drama of this movie is soap.
Yeah.
All like Sidney's relationship with her mom. It is very soap opera, so I guess that does make sense that you're going to get the long lost brother.
Yeah, I liked that reveal towards the end of the movie. But again, wasn't he was shot, he was stabbed. So again, just on the AI thing, hopefully that he's AI because he's not survived.
No.
But yeah, I did actually like that reveal. And the character clearly wanted attention.
Yeah.
He had obvious mummy issues. She wanted nothing to do with him. She chose Sidney as her only kid. And obviously he's got a lot of psychological stuff going on because of that. So again, I think that's where the soap opera element comes in. He clearly wants to have a really long dialogue with Sidney, and Sidney's just like, I've heard this before. I'm over it. Just kill me already. Try and kill me. I don't want to hear this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that it would have helped Roman's character to give him somebody to do this with. And it's the whole cut element of his girlfriend.
Yeah.
That he's doing this with his actress girlfriend who's trying to become the next Angelina Jolie or the next
But she also won the role.
It's kind of like a commentary on fame too.
Yeah.
We were wondering if there was the search for the next Sidney Prescott. Was this a reality show on Fox or something?
Like when he said, you beat out 5,000 girls.
That nationwide talent search.
It was a nationwide talent search. I'm like, does that just mean they had a casting call and they saw that many people? But I'm thinking in my head, full on, so you think you could dance, like Fox, Simon Cowell's there, like, no, you'll never be the next Sidney, like TV show situation. I don't know.
There's two lines in the movie as well about sleeping with a producer, director, whoever, to get the part. You've got Carrie Fisher making the comment that she's not actually Carrie Fisher.
Right.
And the one who got the role was the one who slept with George Lucas.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got this comment as well by, Jennifer... Who's the character's name again?
What is her name here? It is
Angelina
Tyler.
Sorry, yeah. Angelina Tyler, who wins the talent search. Mm-hmm. She obviously blurts that out towards the end of the movie that she slept with Milton.
Also the whole Hollywood mystery backstory with Maureen Prescott.
Yep.
Being invited to all of these parties. And there's a line in here that I think is very interesting. Of Hollywood is full of criminals whose career is flourishing.
Yeah.
That, especially like I mentioned before, take it who was writing the checks for these movies. It's Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that line right there, that is the model of Miramax at that time. Like, that is Harvey Weinstein.
But I mean, are we as the audience just supposed to think that he's talking about like what, OJ? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think this is all just kind of bringing to revisiting this movie now of what you could pull from that line.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty ballsy for them to put something like that in this movie.
Yeah.
I think they were being too meta.
Yeah.
In a way that they didn't want to be.
Right. Are we to believe also that Maureen was kind of like sex trafficked, like in this. Like,
I mean, maybe.
I got that. Like, I don't know that maybe that's what he was doing with these actresses. I don't know. It got kind of dark there.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it.
Yeah,
from his scripts.
Yeah, the way he was saying about how I don't know.
I always look at the career of Wes Craven, and I always just kind of think, did he just kind of resent having to do all of these Scream sequels because he was just kind of locked into a contract with them, with the Weinsteins, of you're going to make all of these movies. And I do kind of think that maybe Wes wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
I think that probably the expectation of having to deliver these movies probably wear it on him. Of really having to top everything with everything that he did for these movies.
I mean, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
At the very least, it's a ton of pressure for Wes.
Yeah.
This is also the year before he did Music of the Heart, which maybe that was a one for them, one for me. Of that, I'm going to do one of the Scream sequels, but I'm going to also do this movie about like an inspirational inner city teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, I think we're probably about a time where we should start wrapping up our Scream 3 conversation.
Yeah. It's a movie that, you know what? Just kind of wrapping up this movie.
Yeah.
I do love the closing scenes of this movie. I think that especially for, if you put yourself in the mindset of the time that this is the third and last movie.
Yeah.
There would later be many follow-ups. But I think at the time they were kind of thinking like this is really going to be the cap of the story.
Scott, she's opening the gates to her driveway.
Mm-hmm.
This 3-foot tall gate that anyone could hop over.
Yeah.
She's symbolically opening the gate.
Yep, that bugs me too.
Her closed up house.
Even leaving the door open. I just think that's common sense. I get what you're trying to do. She's free now. She can live her life.
What I'm mainly thinking about, I think that what I walk away really enjoying, I think it's the scenes between David and Courtney.
Oh, yeah.
Of when he proposes to her.
Oh, yeah.
I really like both of them in that scene.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, those scenes are really sweet.
I also just kind of think of them as like a real-life couple, too.
Right. And is this the first... Is she credited as Courtney Cox Arquette in this movie?
I think she is. I remember that being on my VHS box.
That's how we'll be able to find out which Friends episode it is when she starts getting credited as Courtney Cox Arquette when they got married. Because I think,
It is kind of weird. You've got a parallel of their actual relationship in real life and then their relationship in this franchise. I don't know if you guys heard, but apparently... Courtney Cox in Scream 5, the scene where she comes back to Woodsboro, obviously Dewey's being fired, and they have that really emotional scene about her wanting to stay, but she just couldn't. And apparently Courtney said to whoever was involved in that scene that was for them.
Yeah. Okay.
That scene was for them, and we can do another take now, but that was just kind of like counseling, like couples counseling. Wow. That entire take was just for them to process what was going on in their actual lives, which I thought that was really interesting. I know it's Scream 5, but...
No, totally.
I think that they were recently separated around the time they did 4, too.
Okay. 2011.
Maybe together during filming, but as they were doing press, they were separated.
Yeah. She's only credited as Courtney Cox Arquette in this movie, in Scream 3.
Oh.
Yeah. She's back to Courtney Cox for Scream 4.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Very interesting
But yeah,
stuff.
I like that last moment with them.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Wesley, do you have any final thoughts on Scream 3 before we wrap it up and say our goodbyes?
I think the only scene that, I know we touched on it, basically the big soap opera scene where we find out about Roman, but embarrassingly enough, when I was very little, used to act out the scene where Sidney's just saying, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
Just shut up, just get on with it. I definitely used to act out that scene when I was younger because I just loved the drama and the build-up. And then obviously you've got Roman and Sidney going at it and fighting. So yeah, I really enjoyed that scene.
Nice. Yeah, I do love that though, where she's just like, all right, I'm done. I've heard this. Well, everybody gets her final monologue at the end. She's just like, I'm over it.
I'm over it. Okay, so this new movie that I think that they're filming it right now, that is going to be out next year. I do kind of look at this franchise that I'm like, where do you go with these movies? Like, where do you take the character of Sidney Prescott? Of what are you doing after 7 movies? Like, what more is there to tell with this poor woman? So I kind of hope, Kevin Williamson is directing it. He has not directed a movie since Teaching Mrs. Tingle, and that did not go over so hot. So I do kind of feel like I really hope that they take some big swings with this story, which maybe the casting of Scott Foley and Matthew Lillard, they're doing something different at least, that I think that you just kind of have to make these bold choices, because the Scream in New York, it just turned into Scream 2. That we've already seen this story before.
Yeah, I do have to, even with the Halloween franchise and other horror franchises, I do have to distance myself from reality. Because if I think too hard, then you just laugh and you think, well, this is ridiculous. 7 times now? I mean, she wasn't in 6. So 6 times, but I really do have to push away from reality and just think, you know what? It's a horror movie franchise. I'm just going to go with the flow, let them do what they choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess you have to.
I guess you have to, but I just at least want them to do something that has not been done in those 6 movies, just to keep it fresh.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
I completely forgot that she's not in part 6.
I mean, it was a whole big thing.
I know.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that was a big controversy. That was the only movie. When the earlier ones came out, I was too young to go to the theaters.
Yeah.
But basically, any Scream movie that I was able to see at theater, I did, apart from 6.
Oh, okay.
I knew I would watch it when it would come out streaming, but based on the controversy and supporting Neve Campbell, I didn't feel right personally. I had friends that went to see it and family that went to see it, but I just said for me it doesn't sit right with what was going on at the time. And she was very dignified. She's been interviewed about it. She's been very, very kind and respectful, very, very professional.
Yeah.
But it didn't sit right with me at the time to pay to see the movie.
I was discussing this as that was all happening. I think that a friend of the pod, Dev, we were talking about how we're so invested in these movies. And for Neve, it's just kind of a gig that she's just like, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
We didn't agree on a number, and she was like, that's fine. And I hope that they make a good movie. So I think just for her, that's just kind of show business. They asked her back for the next movie so they could agree on amount.
Oh, yeah. She was super classy about it. I've seen a couple of interviews where they do cover that. Yeah. No ill will, no hard feelings at all. She moved on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not to get too deep in the weeds, but we'll see what happens with Melissa and Jenna, the Carpenter sisters, flew the coop.
Yeah.
So
because they won't be coming back, but the brother and sister will be coming back.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Randy's niece and nephew.
Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding are coming back.
Yep.
I just saw Hard Ice today with Mason.
Was it good?
It's okay. It's cute.
Well, we're also watching season 3 of Yellow Jackets with Jasmine Savoy Brown, and we have thoughts.
So good.
We have thoughts on the new season, so maybe we'll do a little episode roundup for the Patreon or something, because we've got thoughts. But watch Yellow Jackets, listeners. But it's probably about that time. Wesley, thank you so much for coming on this show. This was a ton of fun talking about Scream 3 with you. It was great.
Absolutely. I've loved this, guys.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted to plug at all before we do our sign-offs?
I mean, if anyone is interested, I write horror fiction, so I'm not going to list my socials, but if you go to Wesley Thomas horrorauthor.weebly.com, if you go straight to my site, you'll find all my socials. And if you're interested in any of my horror fiction books, have at it.
I love that.
There you go. Sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show, and we'd love to have you on in the future.
Absolutely. I would look forward to that.
All righty. Well, we will say goodbye, listeners. Stick around. We will be right back. Wesley, have a great evening. All righty, listeners. Thanks for sticking around to the very, very, very end of another episode.
So we've done the first 3 Screams. I don't know if we'll get to more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like I would skip 4.
I don't really enjoy 4. Yeah. I know that 4 does have its very vocal supporters, which I love, but I've never really cared for it.
Same.
And I don't know if we're going to end up doing the newer ones.
The requels.
But who knows?
Only time will tell.
Never
Maybe
say
we'll
never.
Run out of movies we have to get to. But that was a lot of fun. Thanks again to our guest, Wesley. That was a ton of fun talking about Scream 3.
I was looking at the IMDb page for this new movie that they're making. This cast, I mean, Scott Foley, Matthew Lillard, Anna Camp, Ethan Embry. We love Ethan Embry. Mark Consuelos is in this movie. Celeste O'Connor.
I do love Ethan Embry. Good to see
Celeste O'Connor was in the new Ghostbusters movies. Yeah, interesting.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
It's going to be out a year.
Oh, baby.
February of 2026.
Wow. All righty. Well, until then, we got you.
Yeah.
With fresh episodes.
All right.
Well, is it that time of
think
the
it's that
episode? It's time for some Patreon shoutouts. We'd like to say a great big thank you and hello to all of our wonderful active patrons. Thank you for supporting our show, and every little red cent that goes into our donations goes directly to keeping the show on the air every Friday, ad-free. So let's say a great big hello and thank you to Kelsey, Andrew, Stephen, Vanessa, Leah, SB, Brian, Sarah, Richard, Mark, Jeff, Amy, Erica, Anna, Mitchie, our friends at How Do You Drew podcast, our friend Andrew, Kate, Pep, Roberto, Daisy, Kelly, Chrissy, Stephen, Laura, Thomas, Lori, Brenna, Jess, Lawrence, Lisa, Alexis, Thomas, Millie, Benny, Melanie, Susan, Paul, Jamie, Drew, Genevieve, Dawn, Josh, Aaron, Nick and Shannon, Christine, and Rufino. You guys,
thank you so much.
Head over to patreon.com/movies that made us gay for...
We have a lot of fun stuff on the Patreon.
Yes,
so if you join at the $5 level, you will get the TV shows that keep us gay. And around the time that this drops, we will have a new episode of TVs that keep us gay on there. We're going to be watching an episode of Veronica Mars.
Yes, indeed. At the $5 level, you get all of the TV that keeps us gay. You get a whole season of RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars that we reviewed the whole season of. We did a whole summer series on Beverly Hills 90210. Lots and lots of TV content at the $5 level. At $10, you get all that TV plus a Watch With Us commentary every month.
Yeah.
It's a bonus episode each month, but it also is a commentary track. So we'll give you instructions on how to sync it up with the movie so you can listen to us comment as a movie is playing, or you can just listen to it as a bonus episode. It works both ways. Lots of fun over on the Patreon.
Yeah.
So give it a shout.
You can go ahead and write us a review on iTunes.
Please do.
Write
give
us some kind
5
words
stars.
on Apple Podcast.
Yeah, give us 5 stars or write us a cool review. And
We haven't had one in a while.
We haven't. Not since October. Come on, people. Get with it.
If it is nice, we will read it on the show.
Yes, indeed. And you can follow our socials. We're most active on Instagram. We're at Movies That Made Us Gay. We're also on Blue Sky at MTMUG
You can go ahead and follow our personal accounts. I'm Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and find me on Letterboxd.
Yes, indeed. I am at Peter Lasagna on Instagram. I have a letterbox too, but I don't really write that much. But if you want to follow me, you can, just so you can be super cool. But yeah, head over and do all that stuff. But thank you so much for listening, everybody. Until next week.
Bye.
Bye.